Hello and welcome to How Not to Be a Huntard. Okay, so this video is going to show you how not to do some basic things that will piss everybody off in your group or raid, maybe wipe your group or raid. We're just going to have a look at some things like Growl, Barrage, pet buffs, especially if you're marksmanship, some macros, and just go a bit further on to about how you can research about your class, and it will apply to other classes as well. But yeah, just to improve yourself and just to get yourself a bit more knowledge behind the things that you do in game. So let's crack on and look at Growl. Okay, so obviously Growl, currently Beast Mastery. Every single pet in the game has Growl. There it is, the infamous Growl. So this ability is toggled on. As soon as you tame a pet, Growl will instantly be toggled on. And if you go into your pet's abilities, doesn't matter if your pet's tenacity, ferocity, or cunning, it'll have Growl. Okay. Now sometimes, for this pet for example, this is Loch Nahak that spawns in Shalazar Basin, rare dude. He's an exotic pet that you can only tame if you Beast Mastery, so what his bar might look like sometimes is a bit like this. Now this is the pet bar that all hunters have if you've got a pet summoned. So you notice Growl isn't actually on that bar. So you could be in a group, the guy can be saying to you, Growl's on mate, turn Growl off, you're pissing me off, I'm going to smack you in the face if you don't turn Growl off. In the next 5 seconds you're being kicked out of the group. So you might look at your bar and say, well hang on pal, I don't actually see Growl on there. Well, if you look further, if you go into your actual pet's abilities, press P, your spellbook will come up, go over to the pet tab, have a look through, there's a couple of pages, and you'll find Growl. Now if the swirly lights are going around the edge, that means that Growl is toggled on. So your pet will cast Growl whenever it's off cooldown and whenever it's got enough, well it doesn't actually cost any resources, but whenever it's off cooldown. So if you right click that ability, you'll notice the swirly lines are gone. And if I put that back on the bar, you notice it looks like that. The yellow bits are at the 4 corners, it's not actually swirling around like that ability is there. So right click toggled on, right click toggled off. So we're going to leave it on. But yeah, if you're getting shouted at by your group, turn Growl off. That is how you do it. That's how you look into Growl. So next we're going to go on to Barrage. The infamous Barrage. Okay, so really good talent, obviously really good AoE talent. But it can be a nightmare in groups where you're in, say, a small instance and you've got lots of packs around, especially in raids when you're clearing trash. So how do you use it effectively? Okay, so if I'm pointing at that guy now, Barrage kind of fires in a cone, so you've all used Barrage before, you'll know what it's like, but if I was to fire that now, I would also hit the training dummy on the right hand side. If I was to fire it now, that is out of my cone, that is not within my conal angle or whatever the hell you want to call it, so it wouldn't hit it. So what you need to do is really pay attention. Say for example, if that lamppost right there was a mob, if that was another pack of enemies and I didn't want to hit those, I would kind of position myself a bit like here, and then I can fire at these guys, and I'm not going to spray over to those guys either. So you just got to kind of look at what's around you, make sure if that's a corridor, we're going to go down there next. Just double check that there's not a group of enemies stood there, and if there is, and you don't want to pull them, go this way, face the other way. Just always be aware of your positioning. That'll save you a lot of aggro from not just from the mobs, from your group as well, and happy days. So next we're going to look at the marksmanship spec. Now the best talent at level 100 at the minute now is not adaption, that's the wrong one, it is Lone Wolf. Okay, so this gets rid of your pet and increases the damage of some of your abilities, but it also gives you the opportunity to pick a buff from a certain pet type. Okay, so what you need to do really for this is, if you was on your own for example, what you'd do is you'd pick the Raptor, that's your crit buff. Crit's the best start for marksmanship, you pick the crit buff, it's a no-brainer. But if you was to go into a group or a raid where there's somebody else providing that crit buff, you can check your buffs up here and see, oh, if someone else is giving it, what does the group miss? So if the group's missing, for example, multi-strike, you can go up here, find which one is multi-strike, which one is it? There you go. Dragonhawk, you can put that on, and then all your groups got multi-strike buff as well. So you really need to pay attention to what buffs your group has got, what they're missing, and you will pretty much be able to provide that buff for everybody. Now as a hunter you've got the opportunity to use macros, as does every class, but really you want to look into like things that will make your life a bit easier. For example, the simple macros that pretty much every person will use, such as like the kill shot macro, which will just make sure that you stop casting. I've done a separate video explaining some more about these macros in detail, so I will link that in the comments below, or maybe do it as an annotation. But yeah, if you use macros you're going to have an easier time. Your combat's going to be more streamlined, and you're going to be able to use your key abilities as soon as they become available. You're not going to be messing around, losing DPS, getting in a bit of a fluster. It's all just going to be there, ready for you to use. Now for everybody, if you're unfamiliar with the rotation for each spec of being a hunter, a really good place to go and have a look at first is a website called Icy Veins. I'll put a link to that in the description, but this will just give you a rundown of the stat priorities, the rotation, any macros that you might need as a certain spec. It'll give you a really good general idea of how you should be playing as a hunter. But if you want to go even further than that, if you're a particularly PvE focused hunter, it might be a good idea to get yourself recording some combat logs and then ask other hunters as well. A lot of people on Reddit do a pretty common post. There's a DPS thread each week, and if you post your logs onto other hunters on there, they'll give you some really good feedback and some tips. That's always happening. It's a good idea to get involved with. Another resource you could utilize is YouTube. Say for example you're a PvP focused hunter. There's a lot of PvPers on YouTube, and there's all sorts of guides out there that you can get stuck into that will give you a really good general idea. And also just watching people in arenas and rated battlegrounds, that'll give you a good idea of how you can play your hunter to its full potential. Now the last little thing I'll touch on is the glorious aspect of the pack and hunters. Yep, I know, wipe up your tears, this is going away in Legion, so it will no longer be an issue when we get into Legion. But for now, just to respect everybody else and not be a pain in the ass, aspect of the pack, when you get hit by it, when you've got it on, sorry, it will daze you. It will piss everybody off in a raid or a party if they're running around dazed, taking forever to do things. If your tank can't get to some mobs and aggro them because he's running like a slug, he's not going to be happy. So just turn this off, make sure, look at your buffs up at the top, look on your bar, if it's on your bar, is it like that? Yes it is. Turn it off. You know, if you want to make the most of it yourself, put aspect of the cheater on, that's it. You can even, if you really want to, like I do when I'm soloing and stuff, get the glyph that makes it fall off instead of dazing you. If you get hit, the buff will just be removed and you can just recast it if it's off cooldown. But yeah, just don't be an asshole. So there's some little tips. So resources and stuff will be in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope some of these things have helped you, or maybe helped one of your friends if you've got a particularly dumbass hunter, or maybe just a new player that you want to help. Give them a link to this. Hopefully it'll sort them out a little bit and stop them from pissing everybody off. Thank you for watching. I've been Lazy Beast. Catch you later.